Hello, it's gonna be a really quick video on how to resolve some issues with MGC Square-1 if you feel like it's catching and it's kind of like locking up a little bit. So this Square-1, I feel like there's a little bit of catching in some of the layers. So a couple of things to note. These catching issues will eventually go away as you use the cube because the plastic gets broken in and any small imperfections in the plastic will get ground down and it will make the puzzle smoother. However, you can accelerate the process by taking apart the puzzle, inspecting the pieces, and kind of pushing down anything that is sticking up so you can get a smoother effect. So for example, I think it was on this slice, I think it was on the yellow-green thing. So I feel like there's a little bit of catching here in this area. So you can feel this out. Usually it feels a lot sharper than, like here it feels a lot smoother, but here I feel like something is sticking up that is causing it to catch. So usually this is part of the tile or sometimes even the piece itself. It varies from cube to cube, but it is very easy to resolve. So let me just grab a screwdriver real quick. And we will go through this entire cube and make sure that there is no catching issues. So I'm just going to use this to... There we go. So first thing we need to do is take apart the puzzle. And you can do this by just taking off the long caps, unscrewing completely, and then just splitting the cube in half like this. Now, during this time, if you want to upgrade it to maglev like this cube is, you can go ahead and upgrade it to maglev if you need. But if not, that is cool too. Oops. I lost a piece. So what we're going to go through is actually just inspecting all of the pieces. And make sure that there's nothing sticking up. We're going to start off with the core pieces. What we want to do here is we're just going to kind of glide our finger across, and if we feel anything sharp, we want to address that. So here, that orange is good. I don't feel anything. So this red one is a little bit high. I can feel like there's a little bit there. And so what you can do here is you can grab your screwdriver and actually just rub it here to kind of push that plastic down. So we're not really scraping anything away. You can scrape it away if you want. So now, still a little bit. Just try and push that down. That feels a lot better. So here, this one is actually fine. And on this side, that is also fine. Just want to make sure that these corners are also good. All right, so now we know that the core is good. We can put those pieces aside and move on to everything else. We're going to go through the edges next. How we want to do this is we're just going to go ahead and go from the top, the primary pieces onto the colored pieces and make sure that we don't feel anything kind of sharp. So this piece feels fine. Over here it's raised, but that's not going to cause any type of lockups. Here it feels a little bit more raised, and we're just going to take a little closer look at it real quick. So you can kind of see that that primary piece is sticking up just a little bit. We're just going to go ahead and take our screwdriver and just do this to kind of just push that down. Okay, look at it again. Still a little bit raised over here. You can actually still feel it over here. So I'm just gonna, and again, we're not really scraping anything, we're just doing that. So now we'll look at it again. Still a little bit raised, but it does feel a lot smoother now. So that's good. Next piece. So I can feel this is very sharp here on this blue. So we're just gonna go ahead and take our screwdriver, just push that down. And the reason that these will go down eventually is you're just using the cube. All the pieces are kind of pressing against each other anyways, so they won't really do much later on. So that feels fine, that feels fine, that feels fine. Next edge. That feels fine. The catching usually happens on these side tiles. So we just want to make sure that that is kind of fixed up. It's really hard to grip that tiny screwdriver, so I'm going to switch over to this thing. Again, we're not scraping anything off, we're kind of just pressing the plastic down. In fact, you can even use just like the table edge. Get a lot of force in there. Just trying to get that pressed down, make sure that the caps are pushed down. So we don't want to feel any catching in this direction. Catching in this direction is okay. So in this one, a little bit here too. Yeah, it's still there. Just need something that's easier to grip. Still a little bit. Okay, that's good. That feels fine, just in case. That feels very good. Here, this one I definitely feel the tile. So we want to make sure that that tile goes down. Okay, much better. Still feel a tile on this side, so I know that this piece is causing my catching issues also from when I was playing around with it earlier. So now it feels a lot smoother, but there's still a little bit of catching in this direction, which is fine. It's in this direction that we're really concerned about. So just a little bit more. Just rub something stronger than the plastic, and then just I try to use like markers or like screwdriver handles. I don't want to use anything metal because you might actually like scrape the plastic itself, and we don't want that. Still a little bit. So in this case, if you want, and if you tried everything else and you can't get this to get smooth, I would suggest actually using something like a knife and then just slowly try to scrape away at the problem area. Like that. So that feels significantly better after a little bit of scraping. But it's best to use something else. That one's fine. Here's a little bit of catching in this direction. Looking at it really closely from this angle, kind of see that the tile extends a little bit higher. So see if the handle will work. Just pushing it down. You really got to press down hard to get that plastic down. So as you're using the cube, this action just happens as you solve. So it eventually does resolve itself, but you want to make sure that if you want to accelerate it, you can do it this way. So this one's not going away. I'm going to be using a knife again to kind of just scrape away a little bit of that off. Still a little bit, but That should, yeah, that feels a lot better now. Okay, cool. Now the corners usually doesn't have any issues, it's usually the edges. So we just want to just double check. You don't want to feel any type of like sharpness on any of the corners. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. A little sharp here, but let's take a closer look at it. No specific raising issues there. That'll eventually go away. That feels fine. That feels also fine. Missed an edge, do that next. Okay, over here. That feels okay. So now we can put the cube back together. Cool thing about Square-1s, they're solvable no matter what order you put your things in. You just end up getting parity, but that's part of Square-1. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this back together. Like this. So 2 corners, 2 edges per little half of the half. So once again, here, 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 and here. Make sure there's no debris inside. Okay. And here. Now we're just going to carefully put the cube back together. Put it in cube shape if you want. Put our screw, our spring, and our washer, in this case my maglev system, put it back inside. Tighten it to your desired tensions. Once again. And then try again to solve. So I do know that there was some problems with my green, so just make sure that that's not catching anymore. That's smoothed out. This is not as smooth yet, but eventually it will get smoother. And there was a little problem with the blue as well, so I just want to make sure that both sides of that edge feel good. And as you use it, those little tiny imperfections just go away. But this is a quick way to kind of get that started in terms of breaking it in. All right, hope that helps.